Maverick's investigative reporting arm, Scorpio, has more dirt on the 150 million rand digital vibes scandal. It's revealed that more than 1 million rand was siphoned from the health department. The money was allegedly used to establish a new hair salon and an upmarket nail franchise owned by Health Ministers William Mkhize's son and daughter-in-law. Investigative journalist Pieter-Louis Myburgh has been following the story for Scorpio and joins me now live. Pieter-Louis, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Geez, you have been all over this story, and the dirt you've been finding is something else. Now, let's start with this latest development. 1 million rand somehow ending up in William Mkhize's son's and daughter-in-law's pockets to open up beauty salons.
It's shocking, Shahan. I think South Africans have all the right to feel very frustrated and aggrieved at the moment. The background, of course, is that while these transactions, shady transactions were taking place, South Africa was battling perhaps the worst public health crisis in recent memory. That makes it all the more disturbing. But as you rightly pointed out, we have been able to trace a couple of very suspicious-looking transactions that go beyond what has been uncovered in the SIU's work so far. It does look like what the SIU has looked at is merely a part or a fragment of the illicit expenditure, and there certainly seems to be much more to be uncovered. This 1 million rand payment to these two businesses linked to the Mkhize family certainly has all the earmarks of a classic money laundering operation, and it'll be very interesting to see what the justification would be for receiving monies that we can now trace back all the way to the Digital Vibes contract.
Just break it down a bit more for us. When you say trace back to the Digital Vibes contract, how exactly did that money make its way from the company to these individuals? And in what form was the payment made?
Yeah, look, it's very important for us to make direct ties to a illicit or corrupt contract and then to the corruptees or the individuals who receive the proceeds of the funds. So just as a way of an example, one of the transactions that we looked at, we unpacked 5 transactions that showed how monies went from the contract to these businesses. So what happened, for instance, on 29 October 2020, a 4.7 million rand payment was made to Digital Vibes by the Department of Health. It's one of the tranches it's received to make that total of 150 million rand. Then just a couple of days later, on 4 November, Digital Vibes passed on 364,000 rand to a company called Mateta Projects. It's one of the entities that received quite a lot of money from Digital Vibes. Then on that very same date, on 4 November, when Mateta gets this money from Digital Vibes, it passes it on 200,000 rand to All Out Trading, which belongs to the Mkhize, that's the minister's son. And then also on 4 November, the minister's son, Ledani, forwards 100,000 rand to his hair salon, Gold Ace Cuts and Curls. And the same thing happened with an amount of 600,000 rand that was paid towards the contractor who was putting together the Tammy Taylor nail salon, now owned by the minister's daughter-in-law, Dani's wife. So we've got very clear links showing how the money hops from the Department of Health to Digital Vibes to these beneficiaries.
And then, of course, you also found money that made its way or was used for expenses for a farm outside Pieter-Maritzburg.
That's correct. So various other sort of expenses that were adjacent to these payments linked to these two businesses were also kind of flagged in our investigation. We've seen money that goes from, Digital Vibes to all these other entities, then it ends up within Mkhize's accounts, and it is then used for things like farming equipment. It was also utilized for, at least on one occasion, that we're still looking at various data sets. It might not be the end of our work, but at least on one occasion, a monthly installment for BMW X3 vehicle. So it really becomes quite clear that not only were these businesses that the Mkhize family now owns the end destination for some of the funds, but they also clearly used some of these monies for personal expenses like the farming equipment and a vehicle installment.
Of course, you dig very deep into this to find out the links between the money and companies and individuals ultimately. Was there much effort put into trying to hide this money flowing into these individuals' hands?
Look, I think on the surface, yes. So, it's very much in line with the kind of projects we normally investigate or analyze. These individuals wouldn't, in normal course of things, make direct payments from the kind of first-tier recipient of government fund monies to the allegedly corrupt beneficiary. Normally, we see at least a collection of about 4, 5, 6 different accounts, shelf companies, businesses through which the money moves before it reaches its end destination. And that certainly was the case in the latest revelations we've done today. Some of your viewers who've read our piece would have seen that we've illustrated how the money hops through several accounts sometimes before it reaches its end destination. And that really does seem like an attempt at alleged money laundering, which is usually an attempt to disguise the payments and to throw would-be investigators off course. But naturally, it is possible to still find the end destination if enough information is available and one can actually trace the payments and find the ultimate destination.
I'm reading your article on the Daily Maverick website, and the images you have of all of these people together at the launches, etc. It raises lots of questions, right? When it comes to digital vibes, how widespread do you reckon this rot is? Are you still to uncover more?
I think so, Shahan. We have to keep in mind that there's at least 90 million rand from this contract that cannot be linked to any legitimate expenses for the communications work that Digital Vibe supposedly did. Remember, they were appointed for NHI work, and that kind of morphed into a COVID-19 project. So there's a bill of quantities that we can link to actual work that was done. It was very little. I still contend that the 90 million rand that was essentially loot is still a small estimate. I think it's much more. I think a very negligible portion of this money was actually spent on the work. I think in excess of 100 million rand was probably siphoned off to various pockets. We are not anywhere close to fully understanding where every last cent went to. There's still a whole batch of shelf companies and beneficiaries of the contract that got millions and millions of rands. Some of these entities were established shortly before they received their first payments from Digital Vibes. We're still a long way away from finding out what those entities are and who the beneficiaries are, and whether those recipients then forwarded those monies to other ultimate destinations, possibly politically exposed people, persons, PPs, such as the Mkhize family. It's all still up in the air.
Yeah, and of course, we're still waiting for the president to actually release details on the SIU report into this. But thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it. That is Pieter-Louis Myburgh, an investigative journalist, of course, at the Daily Maverick.